Civilization should not come at the cost of justice. We still need justice and need for the East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Delegate of China. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. Thank you, Delegate of Kuwait.
Thank you.
Delegate of United States of America, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the Delegate of United States of America. May I put it as?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chairs and esteemed delegates, the United States of America will speak without filters. What Hamas carried out was not resistance. It was the most brutal form of terrorism. Let me be clear. When civilians are slaughtered, when the children are used as shields, when the women are assaulted, when terror is glorified, we don't talk peace, we talk independence. After 9/11, the world watched as America hunted down those responsible. We did not negotiate with terrorists. We have not encouraged mercy on the devils who are celebrating genocide. Why then should Israel be held to a different standard? If 3,000 American lives justified a global war on terror, why is the world silent when Israeli civilians are butchered in their homes? Let's not wrap cowardice in diplomacy. The US firmly stands with Israel, not just in words, but in support in a greater manner. Any state that shields terrorism stands against humanity. Enough hypocrisy, terror is terror, and justice will be served. Thank you.
Delegate of United States of America, you have 12 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegate would like to read its remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of United States of America is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Delegate of France, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. US in the past has condemned territorial invasion and acquisition, calling it a violation to sovereignty and international law. Yet choose to remain silent when Israel expands settlements and exercises military control over Palestinian territories. How will the US delegation justify this hypocrisy?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
The Israelis' settlement over Palestine is its right, because the war in which the Israel is concerned in today's time is not because of its territorial expansion or for establishing its authority in the Middle East, but it is for the hope of survival. As we go upon the geographical area of Israel, then we see that it is surrounded by the Islamist countries. And if Israel would become weaker in today's time, then the Islamist countries would finish its integrity and authority and its sovereignty, so to speak. So its action over Palestinian areas is its right to save its integrity and for its integral security.
Plea to follow. Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Palestine, you have been recognized.
The United States has consistently justified its actions under the banner of self-defense strategic alliance, yet in doing so it has reportedly failed to condemn or even acknowledge the loss of civilian lives in Gaza. Over 33,000 civilians, women and children, not even adults. The silence of these casualties continue funding military operations such as Midnight Hammer in Iran without conditions on shielding of one party from legal accountability reflects a double standard and directly violates the very humanitarian principles the US claims to uphold. The protection of civilians is a cornerstone of international law. How does the US remain credible in this forum while turning a blind eye on the situation?
May I reply?
Yes, Simi.
As you mentioned, the attacks by the Israel as well as the US on the civilians, then let me be clear that the terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah are using the public places like hospitals, like schools, and like various other places as shields. They are building bunkers inside those public places, which is becoming a target for Israel. We do not support any kind of loss of lives of innocent people, but these steps by Hamas and other terrorist organizations is leading to the loss of lives. We are not doing it intentionally, but it is the result of such kind of cowardice of the terrorist organizations.
Here to follow.
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Russian Federation, you have been recognized.
Doesn't the United States claim to be a champion of human rights, yet while Gaza faces siege, famine and the death of thousands of children, the US continues supplying weapons to Israel and vetoing global ceasefire calls? Is this humanitarian relief or strategic diplomacy?
The delegate would like to reply virtually.
Thank you, Delegate of Russian Federation. Delegate of Malaysia, you have been recognized.
How can the United States, a country that proudly campaigns human rights and international law, continue to support a state that carries out daily bombing on civilian areas, targeting homes, hospitals, and even children in schools?
May I reply?
Yes, Simi.
As the delegate of United States of America mentioned, the actions or our attacks on the public areas like hospitals and schools are not intentional. It is just for the self-defense. As the terrorist organizations like Hamas are building bunkers inside the public areas, inside the schools, inside the hospitals, etc. The attacks are usual because if the Israeli soldiers have to attack, then they have to attack in those areas where the real militants of Hamas are captured. So this is not that we are intentionally doing it, but it is because the organizations such as Hamas are using the shields of such public places, and this shows a deepened sense of cowardice of such organizations.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Delegate of United States of America. Questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat.
Delegate of France, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of France. May I approach the dais?
Yes, Simi. Yes, Simi.
Honorable judges, esteemed Chair, and fellow excellencies. France stands before this committee with clear conviction that the only path to healing the Middle East lies in the defense of human dignity, the rule of international law, and a shared commitment to peace. France believes that the healing Middle East starts with something simple yet powerful. Remembering the humanity in this crisis, behind every statistic are real people, families, children caught in a conflict they didn't choose. We call for an immediate ceasefire, safe humanitarian corridors, and full support for organizations like UNRWA so aid can reach those who need it most. This is not about politics, it's about lives. But aid is the only bandage. Long-term peace depends on a two-state solution, one where Israelis and Palestinians live side by side in peace and dignity. That vision is fading, and it's up to us to bring it back. France urges this committee to move beyond blame. Let's find common ground, support international law, and build real solutions together. Thank you.
Delegate of France, you have 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to lead it?
The delegate of France would like to yield its remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of France is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it.
Delegate of Qatar, you have been recognized.
Considering France's strategic relationship with both Israel and Arab states, how does the delegate of France maintain a balanced diplomatic stance while actively advancing two-state solution and promoting civilian rights on both the sides? Could you please rephrase your question? How does France balance its strategic partnership with both Israel and Arab nations while advocating for two-state solutions? France, by condemning the violations from both sides and providing humanitarian aid through UNRWA, keeps its stances for two-state solution and for peace.
Thank you, Delegate of Qatar. Delegate of India, you have been recognized.
India has shown unwavering support to Ukraine, citing violence of international law, the need to defend civilian lives. Why does the same urgency not apply to Gaza, where violence and civilian deaths are well documented?
May I reply?
Yes, Simi.
France supports international law universally. We have condemned human rights abuses in Ukraine, Syria, and Gaza alike. Our concern is not who the actor is, but whether international humanitarian law is respected.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of India. Delegate of Oman, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Oman. If France truly supports international law and civilian protection, why has it not taken stronger action, such as suspending arms trade or pushing binding UN resolutions against parties accused of violating humanitarian law in Gaza?
May I reply?
Yes, Simi.
France or its armed exports strictly regulates under both national and international law. We do not support the misuse of our equipment and always call for accountability where violations occur. Our goal is not to fuel conflict, but to maintain balanced diplomacy and push for peace through dialogue, not division. France remains firmly committed to humanitarian values, two-state solution and international law in both word and action. Thank you.
Need to follow up?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Jordan, you have been recognized.
How is France using its UN position to promote peace in the Middle East?
Delegate, since we have time constraints, please take less time for replying.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Delegate of Jordan. I would like to answer your question, Majid.
Thank you, Delegate of Jordan. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. Thank you, Delegate of France.
Thank you, Chair.
Delegate of Syria, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Syria. May I make your speech?
Yes, ma'am.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the Syrian Arab Republic takes the floor with a clear message. There can be no healing in the Middle East without justice for Palestine. Since 1948, Syria has opposed the illegal occupation of Palestinian land and the forced displacement of its people. We do not and will never recognize the legitimacy of an occupying power that violates international law and human rights daily. Syria remains in a state of war with Israel due to its continued occupation of the Syrian Golan Heights, and we stand firmly against normalization that ignores the suffering of Palestinians. Syria has always stood with Palestine. We have hosted over 500,000 Palestinian refugees, integrating them into Syrian society with equal access to education, healthcare, employment, and legal protections, while never forcing them to abandon their right of return. We work alongside UNRWA and humanitarian organizations to provide medical aid, food, and emergency relief even in devastated areas like Yarmouk camp during the war. Syria also gives political and diplomatic support to the Palestinian cause in the UN and Arab League. We call for an independent Palestinian state with each Jerusalem as its capital. Today, we urge this committee to protect all illegal occupation and settlements, ensure greater humanitarian aid to Palestinian camps, and most importantly, reaffirm the right of return for Palestinian refugees. Thank you.
Delegate of Syria, you have exhausted your allotted time limit. We'll proceed with the next delegate. Thank you, Delegate of Syria.
Delegate of Portugal, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you to the chair for recognizing the delegation of Portugal. Portugal would like to proceed to the dais.
Yes, sir.
Delegates. The delegation of Portugal approaches the topic of healing the Middle East with profound urgency and commitment. We believe the path forward must be rooted in humanitarian aid, respect for sovereignty, and the safeguarding of civilians. Portugal has consistently contributed to the international relief efforts. In recent years, we have supported the UNRWA, WHO missions, and the EU civil protection mechanism, particularly in Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine petroleum. We actively back EU humanitarian aid packages aimed at stabilizing Gaza and southern Lebanon. As a firm advocate for multilateral diplomacy, Portugal also believes in the centrality of the United Nations and regional actors in negotiating lasting peace. We emphasize the need for an immediate ceasefire in all active conflict zones and call for unconditional access to humanitarian corridors. Furthermore, Portugal supports a two-state solution aligning with the EU's consensus. We believe peace in Middle East directly contributes to global stability, and it's a shared duty to support its realization. Let us move forward not with weapons but with willpower and cooperation. Thank you.
Delegate of Portugal, you have 21 seconds remaining. How would you like to read it?
Portugal would like to use this time to the point of question, point of information.
Delegate of Portugal is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it.
Delegate of Italy, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Portugal supports peaceful resolution and a two-state solution, yet it continues diplomatic relations and trade with Israel. Is that consistent with its peace rhetoric, especially in moments of heightened violence?
Portugal has diplomatic relations with both the two countries, yet it supports the two-state solution. Portugal has sent various humanitarian aids to the through UN and the UNRWA. Portugal believes that global peace can only be achieved through mutual recognition, bilateral talks, and mutual recognition.
Free to follow.
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Spain, you have been recognized.
Will Portugal consider recognizing the state of Palestine following the example of Spain, Ireland, and Norway?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Will Portugal consider recognizing the state of Palestine following the example of Spain, Ireland, and Norway?
Yes, Portugal fully supports the recognition of the statehood of Palestine. We fully believe that mutual recognition will result in global peace.
Delegate of Iraq, you have been recognized.
How does Portugal participate in UN resolution or peacekeeping efforts related to the conflict?
Portugal support. Can you repeat the question?
How does Portugal participate in UN resolutions or peacekeeping efforts related to the conflict?
Portugal votes for global peace and Portugal has contributed over 10 million euros through UNRWA, a charitable fund. Which has resulted in the aid for the urgency of humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Okay. Delegate of Poland, you have been recognized.
As a representative of Palestinian state, as we believe that
Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained by Chair. Thank you, Delegate of Portugal.
Thank you.
Delegate of India, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
President Delegate of India, may I approach the dais?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, India stands firm in its belief in peace, dignity, and the protection of all civilians' lives. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine is deeply tragic, and India has always taken a balanced, lawful, and humanitarian approach. We believe that the suffering of innocent people anywhere must concern us all, and collective global responsibility is vital in crises like these. We support a two-state solution where both nations can coexist peacefully within secure borders. India has constantly voted in the UN for Palestinians' right to statehood and had delivered critical humanitarian aid, including water purification tablets, shelter materials, and life-saving materials equipment to Gaza. While India engages in joint venture with Israel, such as missile, propellants, and drone components, we do not export complete weapon systems, especially during active conflicts. These exchanges are guided by India's own national security needs and remains clearly separated from ongoing hostility. India calls for an immediate ceasefire, unrestricted humanitarian access, and respect for international law. We urge dialogue over violence and security rooted in justice. Our foreign policy is not about taking sides. It is about choosing peace, law, and humanity. Thank you.
Delegate of India, you have 12 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
The delegate of India would like to yield its remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of India is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it.
Delegates, please hold your placards properly.
Delegate of Switzerland, your honor recognized.
If India truly supports the two-state solution and Palestinian sovereignty, why has it repeatedly abstained? Silent on UNGA resolution condemning Israeli military actions or calling for humanitarian ceasefires.
Terrorism in all forms. We call for resistance from all parties, include opposing acts of terror as well as disappropriate retaliation. India's balanced approach ensures engagement with both sides to work towards peace rather than escalating the conflict. Abstaining does not mean silence. It means to not be judgmental or comment.
Speak to follow.
Granted.
Remaining silent on UNGA resolution that condemns Israeli military brutality and maintaining peace. How would you like to justify it?
Delegate, please do not take much time for reply.
Could you please repeat the question?
Abstaining or remaining silent on UNGA resolutions undermines the principle of neutrality and maintaining peace over the region. How would you like to justify it?
Abstaining, like I said, abstaining does not mean silence. We have taken measures like calling for ceasefire, acts of humanitarian in the conflict zone. Our approach is very clear and lawful and neutral.
Thank you, Delegate of Switzerland. Delegate of Germany, you have been recognized. India once strongly supported the Palestinian cause, but now what explains your recent silence on key UN votes related to Gaza?
Could you please rephrase it, like what key votes?
The UN votes related to Gaza in the UN Assembly.
Could you please explain, elaborate a little bit, like what UN votes?
About the votes related to the aid that reaches to Gaza and the issues related to it.
Like that?
Yes, you may.
India calls for unhinged delivery of humanitarian aid to the conflict zones, and we really commend if those transportations of the aid are stopped or blocked by any party.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing. How can India's hollow neutrality stand when you arm Israel's war machine, profiting from Palestinian suffering while dodging a real peace role? Also, in 2022 to 2023, there was a 10 billion trade with Israel, although not armed trade, but still, isn't it indirectly supporting Israel via funding them?
Yes, you may.
Well, India's trade and arms exports to Israel is our trade long-standing relation that is guided by the national security, Indians' own national security needs, like I mentioned in my speech, and we do not supply lethal weapons. We only supply the components, and we have never officially supplied lethal weapons to the Israelis during active conflict or ever. We only supply the components.
Need to follow?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Pakistan, you have been recognized.
Is concerned for Gaza. World suffering is involved in Kashmir. How does India justify this double standard of sovereignty and non-interference? Yet it voices concern for Gaza. One surprising war is in Kashmir. How does India justify this double standard?
Well, of non-interference and has India also believes that could you please repeat the question?
India speaks of sovereignty and non-interference, yet it voices concern for Gaza, while suppressing borders in Kashmir. How does India justify this double standard?
I would like to answer that question.
Thank you, Delegate of Pakistan. Thank you. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. Thank you, Delegate of India.
Thank you.
Delegate of Argentina, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
May I approach the dais?
Yes, you may.
Chair, esteemed delegates, we unequivocally denounce all forms of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and ideologies that incite hatred and dehumanize others. We also firmly condemn the actions of Hamas and other non-state actors that perpetrate terrorist attacks, target civilians, and obstruct the path to peace. Indiscriminate violence, whether by rockets or reprisals, can never be justified. At the same time, Argentina recognizes that Zionism, as a national liberation movement for the Jewish people, must coexist with the equality and equally inalienable right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, dignity, and statehood. We call for an immediate cessation of hostilities, unhindered humanitarian access, and credible negotiations aimed at coexistence, not erasure. Let this forum be not a courtroom of blame, but a platform for bridge building, for Israelis, for Palestinians, and for India's dream of regional peace. Gracias.
Delegate of Argentina, you have 23 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
I would like to use my time to the points of information.
Delegate of Argentina is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Delegate of Maldives, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing. Does the guy still support? I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. I would like to pass the questions for the next delegates.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Turkey, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegates of Turkey. Argentina's President Javier openly declares unconditional support for Israel, even as UN accuses Israel of war crimes in Gaza. How does Argentina recognize this blindly loyalty with the historical support for human rights and justice after its own experience with dictatorships and disappearance?
Argentina supports a peaceful negotiated two-state solution, recognition of Palestine and its right to self-determination.
Please follow up.
Thank you for recognizing the delegate of China. So here's the question. How does Argentina plan to translate its statement into concrete humanitarian aid mechanism without being seen as politically biased in the region?
Can you please rephrase the question?
Yes. How does Argentina plan to translate its statements into concrete humanitarian aid mechanism without being seen as politically biased in the region?
Argentina condemns violence at both sides. Humanitarian acts, it also supports humanitarian access and protection of civilians. It does not send weapons, troops, or financial aid to either side.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of China. Delegate of Saudi Arabia, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Saudi Arabia. Given Argentina's support for a two-state solution, how does your delegation plan to diplomatically pressure Israel to halt the illegal settlement expansion that violate international law and obstruct Palestinian sovereignty?
I would like to answer that question.
Thank you, Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you.
Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. Thank you, Delegate of Argentina.
Thank you, sir.
Delegate of Japan, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the delegation of Japan stands deeply alarmed by the continuing violence and humanitarian catastrophe resulting from the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Japan firmly believes that the loss of innocent civilians' lives on either side cannot be justified under any circumstances. Japan stands in three core principles: adherence to international law, unwavering commitment to humanitarian assistance, and the pursuit of a peaceful two-state solution through diplomatic means. We strongly condemn acts of terrorism and the targeting of civilians. At the same time, we call upon all parties to exercise maximum restraints and uphold the principles of proportionality and distinction under international humanitarian law. Japan has continuously provided aid to Palestinian civilians through trusted international organizations such as UNRWA and WHO. We call for immediate and unhindered humanitarian access, especially in Gaza. We encourage the establishment of humanitarian corridors with international oversight. Japan offers itself as a neutral facilitator for dialogue. We do not take sides in violence, we take the sides of peace, dignity, and human rights. Let this forum be a turning point where global powers choose cooperation over conflict and aid over armament. Thank you.
Delegate of Japan, you have 7 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegation of Japan would like to use remaining time to point of information.
Delegate of Japan is now pin points of information. Countries would like to raise it.
Delegate of Portugal, you have been recognized.
Thank you to the chair for recognizing the delegation of Portugal. Can the delegation of Japan elaborate on its recent humanitarian aid contributions to Gaza, Syria, or Lebanon?
Can you please repeat the question?
Can the delegation of Japan elaborate on its recent humanitarian aid contributions to Gaza, Syria, or Lebanon?
I would like to answer this question via chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Portugal. Delegate of Hungary, you have been recognized.
Japan has generously contributed humanitarian aid to Gaza. What steps is Japan taking to ensure that this aid reaches civilians and not terrorist factions that use it to fund violence against Israel?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
Palestine has aimed to promote peace and stability in the region. Japan has supported various peace initiatives and has often advocated for a two-state solution to Israel and Palestine conflict. It has also provided financial aid and developmental assistance to the Palestinian territories, aiming to foster economic stability as a basis for peace. The turn of the century saw a gradual shift in Japan's approach to Israel, with decreasing reliance on Middle Eastern oil and recognizing Israel's growing technology and innovation sector. Japan started fostering closer economic ties with Israel. Bilateral trade and investment grew, and high-end diplomatic visits between the two countries became more frequent. Japan also begins to see Israel as a potential partner in addressing regional and global challenges, including counter-terrorism. In recent years, Japan has been pursuing a more balanced and active role in the Middle East, engaging with both Israeli and Palestinian leaders.
May I have the permission to follow up?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Argentina, you have been recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me. Why is Japan silent on the Gaza blockade despite its history as a victim of war?
Can you please repeat the question?
Why is Japan silent on the Gaza blockade despite its history as a victim of war?
Delegate, please do not take much time for replying.
Can you, for last time, can you please repeat the question?
Why is Japan silent on the Gaza blockade despite its history as a victim of war?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
The humanitarian situation in Palestine is devastating. Japan is deeply saddened by the serious humanitarian situation in Gaza Strip. especially the fact that children, women, and elderly are suffering. It is also a priority to deliver necessary assistance to each individual in Gaza as soon as possible. And to this end, Japan fully supports humanitarian pauses to facilitate urgently needed assistance. Therefore, Japan made various diplomatic efforts for the adoption of UNSC Resolution 2712, which calls for humanitarian pauses and humanitarian corridors to enable humanitarian assistance throughout the Gaza Strip, and demands that all parties comply with their obligations under international law. Japan works hard for providing humanitarian aid amounting to around USD 65 million, as well as relief supplies through JICA for Palestine, in addition to the already decided emergency grant aid worth USD 10 million.
Thank you, Delegate Argentina. Delegate of Hungary, Delegate of Thailand.
Stance on the Israel-Palestine issue. How does the delegation plan to use this neutrality to mediate or support confidence-building measures? Balanced stance on the Israel-Palestine issue. How does the delegation plan to use this neutrality to mediate or support confidence-building measures?
Yes, Japan has supported and participated in initiatives to establish humanitarian corridors for aid delivery. Japan's Foreign Minister, Yoko Kamikawa, announced that Japan would join the Mediterranean Maritime Corridors Initiative to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza from Cyprus. This indicates Japan's commitment to facilitating aid delivery through established corridors.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Delegate of Thailand. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. Thank you, Delegate of Japan.
Thank you, Chair.
Delegates, if you wish to speak from your assigned place, you can speak from there only. It will not affect your judgment.
Delegates of Iran, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Iran. May I approach the guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair, esteemed delegates, the Islamic Republic of Iran takes this floor with firm resolve, not in aggression, but in defense of truth, dignity, and the inalienable rights of the oppressed. At the heart of this agenda lies a humanitarian wound that has festered for over 7 decades: the systematic displacement, occupation, and dehumanization of the Palestinian people. We are gathered here under the banner of human rights and international law, and yet for decades Palestinians have been denied the most basic of these rights: life, dignity, self-determination. The current humanitarian crisis is not a conflict between equals. It is a reality defined by disproportionate powers and collective punishment. Iran reaffirms its support for the establishment of an independent Palestinian state and in accordance with relevant UN resolutions. We emphasize the right of return, the restoration of occupied lands, and the necessity of ending the siege on Gaza. These are not demands of ideology, they are obligations of law and morality. We are told to compromise while others occupy. We are told to negotiate while our allies are being bombed into silence. Iran will not apologize for choosing the side of the oppressed. To those who say we are fanning the flames, understand this. It is not Iran who lit the match, but we will not let the fire consume Palestine alone.
Delegate of Iran, since you have exhausted your allotted time limit, will proceed with the next delegate. Delegate of Qatar, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. May I approach the dais?
Yes, sir.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the state of Qatar do not rise to escalate tension, but to demand urgent international accountability. The devastation in Gaza is not merely a crisis, it is a profound humanitarian collapse unfolding in real time. While rhetoric circulates, Children are perishing, hospitals are decimated, and basic human dignity is denied. Qatar has chosen engagement over indifference. Qatar has facilitated ceasefires, delivered vital humanitarian aids, and upheld a singular truth. No civilian should ever be tolerated damage. Qatar therefore advocates for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, the establishment of protected human rights, the revival of multilateral peace process, grounded in justice and international laws. This is not a time for neutrality. It is a test of moral clarity. The state of Qatar is prepared to lead. The question is, who among us will act with coincidence? Thank you.
Delegate of Qatar, you have 25 seconds remaining. How would you like to lead it?
The delegate of Qatar would like to lead its remaining kind of point of information.
Delegate of Qatar is now open points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Qatar turned short-term pauses into a two-state track with conditional aid and accountability. Can you repeat? Qatar mediates ceasefires. How will Qatar turn short-term pauses into a two-state track with conditional aid and accountability?
The delegate of Qatar The delegate of Qatar calls for recognition of Palestine with East Jerusalem, West Bank and Gaza as its national territories, and thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Canada. Delegate of Australia, you have been recognized.
A vital role as mediator between Israel and Hamas and has hosted Hamas political leadership since 2012. Given this, how does Qatar reconcile providing sanctuary and financial support to a group widely accused of targeting civilians with its claim to be an honest mediator in pursuit of peace? Between Israel and Hamas and has hosted Hamas political leadership since 2012. Given this, how does Qatar reconcile providing sanctuary and financial support to a group widely accused of targeting civilians with its claim to be an honest mediator?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
The state of Qatar provides humanitarian relief through trusted organizations like UN and has no ties with armed groups like Hamas.
Need to follow up?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Jordan, you have been recognized.
Given Qatar's support for certain groups in Gaza, how does it ensure its actions align with international effort towards peace? Can you rephrase the question? Qatar's support for certain groups in Gaza, how does it ensure its action aligns with peace?
May I reply? The state of Qatar believes that two-state solution is the sole solution for long-term peace with the protection of civilians on the both of the sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Jordan. Delegate of Argentina, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Qatar's financial aid to Hamas is a well-documented lifeline for a terrorist organization responsible for countless civilian deaths. How can Qatar claim to support humanitarian efforts while knowingly funding terrorism?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
The state of Qatar has no official ties with armed groups like Hamas. Our sole purpose is to provide humanitarian aids to civilians in Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Argentina. Due to time constraints, the questions of other delegates will be entertained gradually. Thank you, Delegate. Yes. Yes, you may. Delegate, could you please be louder?
Point of concern privilege. May I use the restroom?
Yes, you may.
Delegate of Sweden, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. May I approach the dais?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates, the Kingdom of Sweden wishes to express its profound concern regarding the prolonged cycles of violence and the intensifying humanitarian crisis unfolding in Israel and Palestine. As a long-lasting advocate for international law, humanitarian principles and multilateral cooperations, Sweden firmly believes that sustainable peace can only be achieved through meaningful dialogue, mutual respect, and unwavering protection of human rights. Our commitment stands clear. Humanitarian aid must reach every civilian in need, regardless of affiliation or geography, without any discrimination or political interference. Sweden is working closely with UN agencies and humanitarian partners on the ground to deliver medical supply, food and psychological support to vulnerable population, especially children and families who are at risk. Sweden reiterates its steadfast support for a negotiated two-state solution, one that guarantees sovereignty, dignity, and security for both Israelis and Palestinians. We recognize that the sanctity of life must remain paramount and that neutrality and compassion are not just mere words, but principles that must guide our actions. Sweden urges this assembly to transcend divisions and focus on collaborative solutions. Sweden is ready to work with delegates to promote peace, protect vulnerable, and promote a future filled with security and justice for all. Thank you.
Delegate of Sweden, you have 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to give it?
Delegate of Sweden would like to yield the points of information.
The delegate of Sweden is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Delegate of Russian Federation, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. As a nation known for its humanitarian diplomacy and commitment to international law, how does Sweden plan to balance its support for humanitarian aid in Gaza and its ties to EU policies that have sometimes struggled to take a clear stance on Israeli military actions?
Madam,
yes, you may.
As already stated, Sweden stands in full support with international laws for humanitarian aid at all times.
Thank you, Delegate of Russian Federation. Delegate of Canada, you have been recognized.
Having recognized Palestine in 2014, what next step? Economic pressure, EU conditionality, or monitoring? Do you agree to make recognition consequential?
Madam,
yes, you may.
Sweden's sole commitment is to provide humanitarian aid and to promote peace in the affected region. And we are supporting all of the international laws who are in support of the peace in the affected region. And we are providing all of our support, and also we are aligned with many UN agencies and committees where we fund and provide many resources to support the area.
Not granted due to time constraints. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained by Chair and Delegate of Sweden.
Thank you.
Delegate of Iraq, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, delegates, for recognizing. Can I move to the podium?
Yes, you may.
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chairs and esteemed delegates, the delegation of Republic of Iraq stand today as a nation of resilience and principle of peace. We rise not just with words, but a legacy of standing for justice, sovereignty, and humanitarian values. In contrast of Israel and Palestine conflict, Iraq has consistently upheld the principle of international law, so the Palestinian people live with dignity and peace within their own independent state. We believe war is not the solution is peace. Iraq has remained clear that we support two-state solution based on pre-1967 border in accordance to UN resolution
and international councils. This is not just political stance, it's a moral one. Iraq has always supported for humanitarian region peace. We stood in solidarity with all oppressed community, showcasing for protection of civilian, international humanitarian law, and preservation of future escalation. Solution of conflict not lies in weapon, but in words, not in division, but in diplomatic unity. We urge the international community to stand for equality and justice, value for core of UN Charter. Let it be known that Iraq will always stand with the oppressed, advocate for peace, and defend the rightful place of international community. Thank you. Delegate of Iraq, you have 8 seconds remaining. How would you like to end it? I would like to yield to the point of info.
Delegate of Iraq has now opened the points of information. Countries would like to raise it. Yes, sir. Delegate of Israel, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Given Iraq's own history of conflict and its ongoing struggle with internal stability, what measures is the Iraqi government taking to prevent its territory from being used by Iranian-backed militias to launch attacks on destabilized neighboring states, including Israel?
As you said that we are suffering from internal instability, that is our internal thing. So we are supporting peace talks, promoting dialogues and two-state resolution at UN and Arab Leagues. We also host and support various Palestinian groups and Arab nations, and also provide medicals and food supplies to Palestinians. Thank you.
Delegate of Oman, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Oman. How can Iraq offer safe passage or staging ground for UN aid?
Iraq can help UN aids by offering transport supports, coordination and safe passage through nearby routes to reach Palestine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Denmark, you have been recognized.
Given the delegation's strong advocacy for Palestinian statehood and regional peace, how does Iraq justify refusing to recognize Israel's existence, even as many call for a two-state solution built on mutual recognition?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Given the delegation's strong advocacy for Palestinian statehood and regional peace, how does Iraq justify refusing to recognize Israel's existence, even as many call for a two-state solution built on mutual recognition?
As Iraq promotes religious stability by supporting Islamic community and protecting holy places, Iraq supports two-state solution under 1967 border to ensure peace and humanitarian values.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Turkey, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegates of Turkey. Many armed militants in Iraq, backed by Iran, claim to support for Palestinian causes, but isn't Iraq allowing its territory to become a tool for Iranian regional proxy warfare rather than contributing to general Palestinian liberations?
As Iraq is supporting two-state solutions under 1967 borders, we ensure only humanitarian values and peace to the both countries which are in the conflict. So we support both, but we more support Palestinian people, and we also ensure peace to the both countries which are in conflict.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Turkey. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained by Richard. Yes, you may. Also, delegates, it is a humble request that you please speak from your assigned place, because we have limited time and we have many other delegates to cover. Delegate of Italy, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing Delegate of Turkey. May I close your lines?
Yes, you may.
Chair, may I start? Chair, may I start? Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, Italy stands today not only as a member of international community but as a steadfast advocate for dialogue, peace and justice. Italy strongly condemns acts of terrorism, the targeting of civilians and any violation of international humanitarian law regardless of the perpetrator. But is it justifiable to target Italy as a dual-natured country? Is supporting right to defense a dual nature? Is providing protection of innocent lives a dual nature? Is supporting a two-state solution a dual nature? Or is it a dual nature to provide humanitarian aid to the innocent lives? Italy just affirms Israel's right to security and peaceful recognition within the borders. Italy equally upholds the Palestinian people's right to dignity, justice and statehood. Rights are not a zero-sum game. They must be mutually recognized and respected. Italy supports all meaningful efforts towards a two-state solution grounded in negotiation, mutual recognition and peaceful coexistence. Italy is ready to contribute the diplomatically and logistically efforts aimed at achieving a permanent ceasefire and building trust between the bodies. Thank you.
Delegate of Italy, you have 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegate will like to use the remaining time to points of information.
The delegate of Italy is now open to points of information. Countries would like to raise it.
Italy has completely expressed solidarity with the victims in Gaza, but continues to maintain military and defense ties with Israel. How does Italy reconcile its humanitarian rhetoric with its role in eliminating the very machinery contributing to civilian sufferings in Gaza, but continues to maintain military and defense ties with Israel? How does Italy reconcile its humanitarian rhetoric with its role in eliminating the very machinery contributing to civilian sufferings?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
The delegation of Italy would like to let the delegation of Japan to know that Italy stopped trading with Israel's laws to support military assistance and armors on 7th of October 2023 as Italy firmly supports its law that it cannot support a country which is involving in war, and Italy cannot give assistance of armors and military assistance that would harm the other civilians which have not a relation with any attacks.
Thank you, Delegate of Japan. Delegate of Romania, you have been recognized.
May I ask a question, Chair?
Yes, you may.
Demanding stronger condemnation of Israel's action in Gaza.
May I reply? Italy has seen massive pro-Palestinian demanding a ceasefire and recognition of Palestinian statehood. Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani also supports ceasefire with several points, like on July 21, 2025, Italy joined a coalition of 25 countries calling for an immediate unconditional ceasefire in Gaza. Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani also reaffirms the country's total commitment to ending Israeli military operations in Gaza. He also proposed 60-day ceasefire and humanitarian aid. So, Italy didn't propose a ceasefire independently, but it has been vocal and active supporter for international efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Romania. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained virtually.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Delegate of Italy. Delegates, please one by one. Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
Point of evidence, may I use the restroom?
Yes, permission for speaking from the place?
Yes.
To Jordan's unique position that is being geographically and politically tied to two of the most discussed names in any UN forum, Israel and Palestine. As a nation that signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1994 and maintains historical interactions with the PLO, we do not take sides, we stand for peace and for diplomacy and for lawful international conduct. We share deep sympathy with the Palestinian people, but Jordan does not excuse violation of humanitarian law from any side. Our role extends beyond diplomacy. Jordan holds custodianship over Al-Aqsa Mosque in East Jerusalem, a sacred site and a flashpoint of unrest. With nearly 60% of the population being of Palestinian origin, Jordan does not stand as a mere neighbor observer, but a country inextricably linked to political, social, as well as economical repercussions of the conflict. Refugees are not a matter of number to us. Jordan hosts over 2 million Palestinian refugees and 10 official UNRWA camps. While we uphold our humanitarian obligations and Arab unity, our resources such as water, energy, health and education system are overstretched. Thank you.
Delegate of Jordan, you have 10 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
The delegation of Jordan would like to yield the remaining time for point of information.
Delegate of Jordan is now at points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Delegate of Brazil, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Brazil. As Jordan in 1994 signed the peace treaty with Israel, how does it justify continuing to support Palestinian resistance against Israeli occupation?
Jordan shares deep historical, familial and cultural ties with Palestinian people. We have signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1994, but that does not mean we remain silent in the face of injustice. So supporting Palestine is not about opposing anyone, it's about supporting peace, dignity and regional harmony.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Delegate of Brazil. Delegate of Sweden, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. How is Jordan managing its internal instability caused by public anger over Israel's actions in Gaza and economic pressures, while balancing its diplomatic ties with Israel and supporting for the respective?
Jordan continues to uphold humanitarian values despite having immense strain on its economy, resources, etc. But it also asks international community to step up burden sharing efforts, and holding refugees must not come at the cost of national stability.
Please to follow up. Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Zimbabwe, you have been recognized. Yes, you may.
To make that ceasefire reality. May I answer this question, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may. Delegate of Iraq, you have been recognized.
How does Jordan manage the large population of Palestinians refuging within its border?
As Jordan holds about 2 million refugees in our country, it holds, because of humanitarian obligations and Arab unity, it is very challenging for our country to hold such an amount of refugees, and further it advocates for increased funding of UNRWA.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Czech Republic, you have been recognized.
Thank you for recognizing the delegate of Czech Republic. Jordan has a peace treaty with Israel and hosts millions of Palestinian refugees. How does this shape your approach towards two-state settlements solutions?
Jordan strongly supports a two-state solution with East Jerusalem as the capital of future Palestinian state. We advocate for peace negotiation based on international law and Arab peace initiative, even after signing a peace treaty and recognizing Israel as a country. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Delegate.
Special greetings to Reverend Judges, esteemed chairs and fellow delegates. Switzerland is deeply concerned by the escalation of violence in the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict. As a neutral state and a strong advocate for international humanitarian laws, we call on all parties to ensure the protection of civilians. Switzerland condemns all acts of terrorism and indiscriminate attacks, while also emphasizing the needs of proportionality and military responses. We urge both sides to prioritize dialogue over violence. Switzerland manifestly reaffirms its commitment to a two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinians can coexist peacefully without becoming an interventionist in each other's domestic affairs. Bringing its neutral stance into practicality, Switzerland has taken significant initiatives. Specifically talking, banning Hamas cut short its funding to UNRWA. Talking about humanitarian aid and assistance, the Swiss government has allocated $9 million to organizations such as UNICEF, WHO for Palestinian refugees in Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. In support of Israel, Switzerland has provided humanitarian aid to the region, including financial assistance with shelter, food, and healthcare, and has sent a forensic team to Israel to help identify victims after the October 2023 attacks. Switzerland remains committed to a negotiated, just, and lasting peace and humanitarian focus. Thank you.
Delegate of Switzerland, you have 6 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
Delegate of Switzerland would like to use this remaining time.
Asian countries would like to raise it. Delegate of United States of America, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Given the Switzerland's host numerous international legal institutions, what credibility can those institutions maintain when your government remains largely symbolic in its approach to resolve or even sanctioning breaches of international norms in the conflict?
May I reply? Super very reliable and assure the aid and assistance to people who are affected in the region. Switzerland will refrain itself from funding those who are involved in any non-humanitarian activities or they are involved in terrorist groups.
Need to follow.
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Saudi Arabia, you have been recognized.
Maintains robust diplomatic and economic relations with Israel, given its self-proclaimed role as a neutral mediator and a champion of human rights. Why does Switzerland not leverage these strong bilateral ties more assertively to press Israel to adhere to international laws, specifically regarding issues like the demolition of Palestinian homes and the expansion of separation barriers or the restrictions of Palestinian movement, which are clear violations of the Geneva Conventions it upholds?
May I reply? Humanitarian laws. It strictly condemns and criticizes the bombing and attacks on Palestinian homes and buildings. Talking about the Geneva Conventions, as a democratic state, we uphold all the principles and values written in the Geneva Conventions and we strongly criticize those who violate it. Need to follow?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Romania, you have been recognized.
Vocal about humanitarian access to Gaza. What concrete diplomatic or economic pressure is your country placing upon Israel to allow full and unimpeded aid entry?
May I reply?
It's delegate of Switzerland and not Sweden.
Of the aid and assistance given to both of the regions. In case of Palestinians, Switzerland has allocated CHF 20 million, about $24 million for humanitarian efforts, including CHF 11 million to UNRWA for Palestinian refugees. Talking about Israel, Switzerland responded to an official Israeli request by providing support in identifying victims of the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. Thank you.
Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained by Chair.
Thank you.
Delegate of Finland, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Is used to ensure once and for all the peaceful settlement for the question of Palestine. This must be more than a declaration. It must be taken as a goal for all of us for the benefits of both the Israelis and Palestinians. Finland is completely neutral about the war and would like that this preparatory meeting must start the course of action and reflection. Palestine and Israeli people are suffering. Almost 59,900 Palestinians and 1,900 Israelis have been reported dead in the Gaza war. This has ended up against various rights like humanitarian rights. The economical health of both the countries are getting affected. The escalation in the West Bank is equally alarming. Ending the war, ensuring the release of the hostages safely and ensuring long-term security for both. This should be done by an irreversible political plan. Finland recognizes the right of Israelis to protect their civilians. Moreover, to end this war should be an aim for all of us. The two-state solution must be executed as soon as possible, and the war should be pacified and civilians must be provided aids. Thank you.
Mr. Maini, how would you like to give it?
The delegate of Finland would like to give its remaining time to point of information.
Delegate of Finland is now open to points of information. Countries would like to raise it. Delegate of Portugal, you have been recognized.
Thank you for recognizing the delegation of Portugal. Finland advocates for peace and multilateralism, yet as an EU member, it aligns its states deepening ties with Israel despite ongoing settlement expansion. How does Finland reconcile this with its commitment to international law?
Could you please rephrase the question?
Finland advocates for peace and multilateralism, yet as an EU member, it aligns its states deepening ties with Israel despite ongoing settlement expansions. How does Finland reconcile with its commitment to international law?
While Finland's political and diplomatic tie, may I follow up?
Delegate, it's you need to reply.
Sorry for the inconvenience. May I answer?
Yes, you may.
While Finland's political and diplomatic ties with Israel may produce complexities, the legal framework of Finland is likely to lead it to fulfill its obligation under the international law.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Portugal. Delegate of Belgium, you have been recognized.
Because two staff were accused of wrongdoing, but at the same time, it still got weapons from Israel when it's accused of bombing hospitals, schools, and refugee camps. Why are you punishing aid but not war?
May I answer?
Yes, you may.
I'd like to know the source of information for this, please.
According to UNRWA reports, funding paused by Finland by UNR statement January 2024.
I'd like to answer this question, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Delegate of Norway, you have been recognized.
Finland supports a two-state solution and votes in favor of Palestinian humanitarian aid, but has put no.
May I repeat?
Finland supports a two-state solution and votes in favor of Palestinian humanitarian aid, but has put no ban upon Israel and still facilitates statewide.
Finland has co-sponsored and voted in favor of General Assembly resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and immediate unconditional release of hostages and ensuring humanitarian access. We have strongly and consistently underlined that military separations must be proportionate and in line with the international humanitarian law.
Thank you, Delegate of Norway. Delegate of Kuwait, you have been recognized.
Thank you for recognizing the delegation of Kuwait. Finland is often praised for neutrality, but in the face of apartheid, accusations against Israel by major human rights organizations, is neutrality truly ethical or is it diplomatic indifference?
May I reply?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to answer this question by chat.
Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. We'll move to the next delegate. Thank you, Director Pendant. Yes, sir.
Delegates. The delegate of Pakistan expresses grave concern over the escalating humanitarian crisis in Palestine. For decades, the people of Gaza have faced unlawful blockades, targeted bombings, and violations of international humanitarian law. Yet the world has watched in silence. The skies over Gaza have turned black with smoke, and yet this committee debates neutrality. What kind of thing stops ignoring the cries of collapsed buildings? This is not a war, it is a military occupation. One side has jets and missiles, the other side buries its children with their hands. There can be no peace in the Middle East without justice. Justice begins with ending the illegal occupation, ensuring ceasefire, and allowing free humanitarian access to the affected areas. To those who question that Pakistan's stand, let it be known, our position is rooted in humanity, not hostility. Pakistan does not stand with any extremist ideology, we stand with the oppressed. We urge the committee to judge actions, not alliances, and to hold all violators of international law equally accountable. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Healing does not begin with empty statements. We urge the committee to take unified action because this isn't about borders, politics, or reason, whether it's about basic humanity. Thank you.
Delegate of Pakistan, you have 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegate of Pakistan would like to use remaining time for points of information.
The delegate of Pakistan is now open to points of information. Countries would like to raise it. Delegate of Russian Federation, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Pakistan frequently positions itself as a defender of Palestinian rights, yet remains silent on the wider Muslims in China, the Hazaras in Balochistan, and systemic oppression of minority within its own territory. Is Pakistan's humanitarian stance genuine, or is it simply political theatre based on who the oppressor is? As a defender of Palestinian rights, yet Muslim silent on the wider Muslims in China, yet remains silent on the wider Muslims in China, the Hazaras in Balochistan, and systemic oppression of minorities within its own territory. Is Pakistan's humanitarian stance genuine, or is it simply political theatre based on who the oppressor is?
May I answer this question, Malaysia?
Yes, sir. And the Delegate of Russian Federation. Delegate of India, you have been recognized.
As a country that calls for de-escalation, would Pakistan publicly commit to denouncing all forms of violence against civilians, regardless of who commits it? Will Pakistan today declare that any attack on civilians, whether in Gaza, Israel, or Kashmir, or anywhere else, is wrong? As a country that calls for de-escalation, would Pakistan publicly commit to denouncing all forms of violence against civilians regardless of who commits it? Will Pakistan today declare that any attack on civilians, whether in Gaza, Israel, Kashmir, or anywhere else, is wrong?
Yes. I would like to answer this question.
Thank you, Delegate of India. Delegate of Israel, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chef, for recognizing. Despite facing severe internal challenges from extremist groups, Pakistan has a long and documented history of supporting and harboring various Islamist militant organizations, including those that target India and by extension contribute to regional instability that affects our interests. Operation Sindhu in May 2025, which destroyed terrorist camps in Pakistan, and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is a recent example of this. How does Pakistan reconcile its claim of being a victim of terrorism with its continued alleged support for cross-border terrorism and its failure to decisively dismantle all terrorist infrastructure on its soil? When will Pakistan cease its use of proxies as an instrument of state policy?
May I answer this question?
Yes, Sumit.
Pakistan has never intentionally sheltered terrorists. In a region affected by war and instability, some non-state actors may have crossed borders unnoticed, but Pakistan had consistently acted against them through military operations and intelligence corps.
Need to follow?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Venezuela, you have been recognized.
Thank you to the chair for recognizing the delegate of war in terrorism, and it recognizes the fear of Israel as terrorists. So does it recognize its own terrorism in its country, and what does it do to counter it?
Pakistan strongly rejects the false narrative that it supports terrorism. We have been one of the biggest victims of terrorism, losing over 80,000 lives, and military operations like Jal-e-Azhar and Rad-ul-Fasad. So our commitment to eliminate all terrorist groups without distinction. We do not provide shelter. We fight terror for peace and security of our country.
May I follow up? Due to time constraints, further follow-ups and questions of other delegates will be educated action. Thank you, Delegate of Pakistan. Thank you.
The judge, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, sir, for recognizing the delegate of the judge. May I approach the dais?
Delegate, could you please speak from your side, please?
Okay, I will. Egypt has always carried the weight of the boldness, from battlefield to peace tables, from Cairo to Rafah, and today in this hall. Egypt rises not with empty words, but with the legacy of action. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, Egypt stands before you not as a bystander, but as a nation that has bled, mediated, and built bridges for decades in the heart of this conflict. From Camp David in 1978 to the Sharm el-Sheikh summit, from brokering ceasefires in 2006, 2012, 2014 and 2021, and even today. Egypt has been the voice that calls both sides back from the brink. We have opened Rafah's crossings to deliver hundreds of aid trucks daily, pledged $500 million for Gaza's reconstruction, and coordinated with the UN, EU, Qatar and United States to ensure the food, medicine and fuel reach those in the desperate need. These are not promises, these are facts on grounds. We rejected the forced relocation of Gaza's in Syria, a red line we will not cross, upon which we are mocked. Humanitarian aid must not come at a cost of Palestinian sovereignty. We are held to change the narrative. Egypt now calls for full humanitarian corridors, a permanent license mechanism in Cairo, and renewed push for two-state solution where Palestinian agency is respected and Israeli security is assured. Thank you.
Delegate of Egypt, you have exhausted your time limit. We'll proceed to the next delegate.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Delegate of Egypt. Delegate of Indonesia, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Can I start?
Singing.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the delegation of Indonesia is honored to address this committee on the urgent and deeply humanitarian issue of the Israel and Palestine conflict. Indonesia stands firmly with the Palestinian people in their rightful pursuit of freedom, dignity, and statehood. As a nation that gained independence through struggle, we deeply understand the pain of occupation and the moral imperative of self-determination. Guided by a constitution and principles of peace, humanity, and justice, Indonesia has consistently supported a two-state solution. One that recognizes the state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as its capital and living side by side in peace with Israel within the pre-1967 borders. We condemn the continued expansion of illegal sentiments, the use of force, and the humanitarian blockade imposed on Gaza. These actions violate the international law, including the Fourth Geneva Convention, and must not be ignored. Indonesia does not recognize Israel as a state and has no formal diplomatic ties with it. Indonesia officially rejects the normalization with Israel unless Israel recognizes Palestine as a state first. Indonesia also calls for immediate ceasefire and restrict humanitarian access and the full protection of civilians under international humanitarian law. This conflict is not about land, it's about justice. The time to act is now. We also support the stronger multilateral efforts to the United Nations
next delegate. Thank you, Delegate of Indonesia.
Delegate of South Africa, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. May I continue?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, as representative of South Africa, a nation fought in the crucible struggle against apartheid, I stand before you with a profound sense of duty to address the Israel-Palestine conflict and our collective agenda of healing the Middle East. My nation itself has emerged from the shadows of oppression and injustice. I stand today with a deep understanding of value of peace, dignity, and human rights. The Israel-Palestine conflict is just not a regional issue. It is the test of our shared humanity. We stand firmly with the Palestinian people in their quest of justice and self-determination. The crisis in Gaza is catastrophic. 59,000 lost their lives. 90% of 2.9 million people displaced, and famine is threatening thousands. We condemn all violence, including the October 2023 Hamas attack and Israel's disproportionate response, ruled unlawful by the International Court of Justice in 2024. The agenda before us, healing the Middle East, demands more than just temporary ceasefire. Let us not forget that healing begins when we recognize pain and injustice and commit ourselves to build a future of hope. South Africa stands ready to work all nations to ensure that peace is just not a promise but a reality for every child in Palestine. Thank you.
Delegate of South Africa, you have 5 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
I would like to yield the time to the Chair.
Thank you, Delegate of South Africa. We'll proceed to the next delegate. Delegate of Denmark, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Permission to speak? Yes. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, Denmark remains gravely concerned by the devastating impact of the conflict on civilians in both Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories. We are equally condemn the October 7th attack by Hamas, including taking of hostages, and call for their immediate and unconditional release. At the same time, we are alarmed by the scale of civilian casualties in Gaza and the widespread humanitarian suffering. More than 1.9 million people, 85% of Gaza's population, have been displaced. Denmark reminds all parties that international humanitarian law must be upheld. Protecting civilians is not optional, it is legal and moral obligation. We support an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, safe and sustained access to aid, and accountability for all violations. Denmark continues its humanitarian assistance to UNRWA and other trusted partners, while insisting on strict neutrality, oversight, and reform where needed. Looking ahead, Denmark reaffirms its commitment to a two-state solution with a reformed and empowered Palestinian Authority and dismantlement of all illegal settlements, and firmly believes that Hamas must not be a part of future governance. Denmark believes that lasting peace will only come through credible political dialogue, grounded in mutual recognition, international law, and human rights. We must move beyond cycles of violence and endorse solutions that restore peace, stability, and dignity to the region. Denmark stands ready to support a meaningful process towards that end. Thank you.
Delegate of Denmark, you have exhausted your allotted time limits, so we'll proceed to the next delegate. Thank you, Delegate of Denmark. Delegate of Spain, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegation of Spain. May I have your permission to speak?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates, a splendid afternoon to you all. The Kingdom of Spain stands before this assembly with a clear message. We believe in peace, dignity, and the right of every person to live in freedom and security. On 28 May 2024, Spain recognized the state of Palestine, joining nations across the world in a step toward peace and justice. This is not a gesture of division, but of hope. Spain supports a two-state solution with East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine based on the 1967 borders. We support a sovereign and viable Palestinian state living side by side in peace with Israel. While we condemn the terrorist attacks by Hamas, we also reject the disproportionate military response that has caused immense civilian suffering Gaza. Spain was among 121 nations that voted for an immediate ceasefire at the UN General Assembly. As a nation with historic ties to both people, Spain has long supported diplomacy, from the Madrid Peace Conference in 1991 to continued aid to Palestinians, including 75 million euros in 2024 for education, youth, and UNRWA. Fellow delegates, definition is not the end. It must mark the beginning of a peaceful, negotiated future. Spain urges all the nations to recommit to ceasefire, dialogue, and international law. Let us not be passive witnesses to injustice. Let us be active agents of peace. Gracias.
Delegate of Spain, you have exhausted your allotted time limits, so we'll proceed to the next delegate. Thank you, Delegate of Spain. Yes, you may. Yes, you may. Delegate of Canada, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Canada. May I start?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the Israel-Palestine conflict is not merely a regional issue, but a matter of global concern. Its resolution is essential for the stability and peace of the Middle East and the broader international community. Canada believes that both Israel and the Palestinian Authority must fully respect international human rights and humanitarian laws. Canada supports Israel's rights to live in peace with its neighbors within secure boundaries and recognizes Israel's right to assure its own security. But it also recognizes the Palestinian right to self-determination and supports the creation of a sovereign Palestinian state. The Canadian government encourages direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians and it aligns with international efforts to support for the peace process, such as those led by the UN. Canada's position is characterized by a balanced approach, supporting Israel's security needs while advocating for Palestinians' rights and a negotiated two-state solution. This balanced stance reflects Canada's commitment to peace, security, and respect for international law in the region.
Delegate of Canada, you have 22 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
Delegate of Canada would like to use the remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of Canada is now 20 points of information until you would like to raise it. Delegate of Yemen, you have been recognized.
Your nation has consistently voiced support for two-state solution. Yet to this day, Canada refuses to recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. How can Canada claim to champion peace and coexistence while denying recognition to one of the two states it believes it should exist?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
Canada supports recognition as part of a pathway that delivers a viable, contiguous state and is prepared to consider recognition with partners if talks remain frozen and facts on the ground foreclose two states. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Qatar, you have been recognized.
Considering Canada's historical support for two-state solution, how does the delegate justify continued armed sale to Israel amid civilian casualty in Gaza?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
Canada enforces strict export control laws aligned with the Arms Trade Treaty and IHL risk assessments. Any sale must not risk facilitating serious violations.
Plead to follow, not granted due to time constraints. Questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. Thank you, Delegate of Canada.
Thank you, Chair.
Delegate of Greece, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. To recognize the delegation of peace.
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, the delegation of peace stands committed to peace, dialogue, and international law in addressing the Israel-Palestine conflict. As a country at the crossroads of the East and West and a neighbor of the Middle East, Greece believes that prolonged violence not only harms civilians but destabilizes the border region, including the Eastern Mediterranean. Greece strongly supports a two-state solution in accordance with the relevant UN resolutions that ensures a secure Israel and a sovereign Palestinian state coexisting in a peace. While Greece recognizes Israel's rights to defend its people, we firmly stress that military action must remain proportionate and respect international humanitarian law. At the same time, we condemn terrorism and the targeting of civilians by any party. Greece urges this committee to push for an immediate ceasefire, humanitarian access to Gaza, and the revival of meaningful peace talks. As an EU member, we stand ready to work with all parties towards a future of justice, dignity, and lasting peace. Thank you.
Delegate of Greece, you have 35 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield?
I would like to yield to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate of Greece. We'll proceed to the next delegate.
Delegate of Mexico, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Mexico. May I speak?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the delegation of Mexico stands deeply concerned by the decades-long Israel-Palestine conflict, which has led to immeasurable human suffering and instability in the Middle East. Mexico calls for a two-state solution guided by international law and United Nations resolution, ensuring the sovereignty of both Israel and Palestine while preserving reasonable peace. We strongly urge immediate humanitarian aid corridors, ceasefires, and mutual access to medical and food supplies. The targeting of civilians regardless of the site is unacceptable. Mexico emphasizes diplomatic dialogues, peaceful negotiations, and respect for human rights and international humanitarian law. Thank you.
Delegate of Mexico, you have 40 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield?
Sure, I want to deal it by the point of information.
Delegate of Mexico is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Why has Mexico remained relatively silent on recent escalation?
Sure, I want to answer this by shift.
Thank you, Delegate Oman. Delegate of China, you have been recognized.
Thank you for recognizing the delegate of China. So my question is, Mexico has traditionally maintained a neutral stance on global conflicts. In the current crisis, does Mexico support an immediate ceasefire and the recognition of Palestine as a state under the two-state solution framework? On global conflicts. In the current crisis, does Mexico support an immediate ceasefire and the recognition of Palestine as a state under the two-state solution framework?
Sure, I want to answer it by shift.
Thank you, Delegate of China. We time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained by Richard.
Delegate of Democratic People's Republic of Korea, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds. Yes. Yes, sir.
Point of personal privilege, can I use the restroom?
Yes, Delegate of Romania.
Chair, the point of personal privilege, may I use the restroom?
Yes, you may. Yes, sir.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea takes the floor today not to choose sides but to call for reason and resolution. North Korea believes that the sovereignty and dignity of all people must be respected. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine has claimed continuous innocent lives, and it is imperative that we as a global community do not let politics overshadow humanity. While North Korea does not align with either party in the particular conflict, we firmly oppose the use of excessive force, occupation, and the tragedy of civilians regarding the site. The infrastructure loss of innocent lives and the displacement of thousands should alarm every nation present here. North Korea urges both parties to return to the negotiation table under the guidance of neutral national bodies such as the United Nations. These stress the importance of self-determination and peace without foreign interference that peace is more efficient.
Delegate of Democratic People's Republic of Korea, you have exhausted your allotted time limit, so we'll proceed to the next delegate. Thank you. Delegate of Saudi Arabia, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Saudi Arabia. Respected Chair and honorable delegates, as the delegate of Saudi Arabia, I stand before you today not just to speak, but to remind you of something we all should care about: human dignity and justice. For more than 75 years, the people of Palestine have suffered. They have lost their homes, their freedom, and even their right to dream for a better future. Imagine being born in a place where every day feels like a battle just to survive, where schools can be turned to rubble and families are forced to flee again and again. This is not a conflict, it's a crisis. A just peace cannot bloom where justice is denied. Saudi Arabia believes strongly in peace, but peace that is fair and lasting. We support the creation of an independent Palestinian state, with each Jerusalem as its capital, based on 1967 borders. These aren't just political points, they are the starting lines for justice and equality. The Arab Peace Initiative offers a simple idea: peace in exchange for withdrawal from occupied lands, rights in exchange for recognition. It's not about winning or losing, it's about finally doing what's right. To truly help, we must stop treating peace like a faraway dream. We must work together as a global community to give Palestine the freedom it deserves. Let us build bridges, not barriers. Let us choose justice, not silence. The time to act is now, not later. Thank you.
Delegate of Saudi Arabia, you have 17 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegate of Saudi Arabia would like to use this remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of Saudi Arabia has now made points of information. Countries would like to raise it. Delegate of Italy, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Saudi Arabia frequently discusses about human rights in Palestine, but how does its own human rights record affected its credibility on the global stage?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Saudi Arabia frequently discusses human rights in Palestine, but how does its own human rights record affected its credibility on the global stage?
May I reply?
Sumit.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia reaffirms its unwavering support for the people of Palestine, who have suffered for decades and have not got the rights they deserve as a sovereign nation and the right to self-determination. The humanitarian crisis and violation of humanitarian laws is deeply condemned by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We reassure that our past does not affect the stance that we have in this conflict.
3 to 4.
Now granted due to time constraints, Delegate of Australia, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. While Saudi Arabia claims to advocate for a Palestinian cause, how does the delegation justify its behind-the-scenes normalization talks with Israel? Particularly in 2023, even as Israel intensified its military campaign in Gaza. Can such diplomacy be reconciled with your public condemnation of Israeli actions, or is this simply strategic convenience disguised as solidarity?
May I reply?
Yes,
Saudi Arabia reaffirms its unwavering support to the Palestinian cause and the right to self-determination. Any talks with Israel is just for regional stability and security. This does not undermine the justice of the Palestinians and the right to self-determination, our sovereign nation, and the dream of a better future.
Thank you, delegates. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained. Thank you, Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you.
Delegate of Romania, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, Romania stands firmly for peace, human rights, and respect for international laws. We mourn the loss of innocent life on both sides, call for an immediate end to the violence and ceasefire.
We believe a just, lasting peace can only come through a negotiated two-state solution where Israel's right to security and Palestine's right to self-determination are equally upheld. Romania's history of diplomatic ties with both Israel and Palestine reflects our belief in a dialogue over division. As an EU member, we support humanitarian aid access, civilian protection, and renewed international efforts towards peace. Let us choose hope over hatred. Romania urges all parties to come back to the table because only peace can give both people a future free from fear. Thank you.
Delegate of Romania, you have 30 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
I yield 2 points of information.
Delegate of Romania has raised 2 points of information. Countries would like to raise it. Delegate of United Arab Emirates, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. Romania has not recognized the state of Palestine as more countries in Europe move towards recognition. Is Romania willing to reconsider its stance to support a viable two-state solution?
Romania will reconsider its original stance upon this motion and has now lived up to the firm belief that the people of Palestine deserve a home, and so does that of Israel, and is now on part with the two-state solution.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Delegate of United Arab Emirates. Delegate of Iraq, you have been recognized.
How is Romania balancing its diplomatic relations with both Israel and Palestine in the ongoing conflict?
Romania has provided a significant humanitarian aid to Palestine, particularly in Gaza. Also, for Israel, it stands with the two-state solution and it has endorsed Israel and the people of it. So, yeah, we are currently balancing both countries equally.
Okay. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained virtually. Thank you, Delegate of Romania.
Thank you.
Delegate of Norway, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Norway. Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the delegate of Norway rises not with bias but with conviction. Conviction that peace is possible, but only when truth is not silenced for comfort. Let's stop asking war crimes as self-defense and collective punishment as security. Gaza is not a military target, it's a civilian graveyard. Over 2 million people are trapped, starved and shelled. According to Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, 80% depend on aid, yet fuel and food are being blocked at gunpoint. Norway supports a two-state solution, but not one written in rubble and blood. We condemn all acts of terror, from Hamas rockets to Israeli bombs that flatten refugee camps. This isn't balance, it's brutality, and yes, Norway brokered the Oslo Accords, not to house peace wrought in archives, but to revive it in this room. We demand a complete ceasefire now, immediate humanitarian access, an end to illegal settlements, and UN-led negotiations with real accountability. Peace without justice isn't peace. It's permission, and Norway does not give it. Thank you.
Delegate of Norway, you have 20 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
The delegate of Norway would like to yield its remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of Norway is now put to points of information. Countries would like to raise it.
Delegate of Egypt, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Egypt. Norway is widely recognized as the champion of peace and humanitarian values. It even hosted the Oslo Accords that was meant to secure Palestinian self-determination. Yet, decades later, while Norway continues to fund aid programs, it also maintains defense exports and energy partnerships with countries involved in armed conflicts, and also not move beyond symbolic support for a two-state solution. How does Norway reconcile its historic role as a peace broker with the limited tangible process and contradiction in its own policies? How would you justify these double standards?
Norway does not export weapons to any country involved in armed conflict, occupation or internal repression. All arms sales are tightly there's a risk they will be used to violate international law. That includes Israel, Hamas, and every active war zone. It is stated by Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs Export Control.
Need to follow up?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Qatar, you have been recognized.
How is Norway contributing to ongoing humanitarian relief in Gaza?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
Norway is providing substantial aid. Since October 2023, we have pledged roughly 200 million Norwegian krone for Gaza relief. In February 2024, Norway transferred 275 Norwegian krone in UNRWA for Palestinian refugees and continues to lead the AHLC.
Thank you, Delegate. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be exchanged via chat. Thank you, Delegate of Norway.
Delegate of Hungary, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds. Thank you for the recognition, Honorable Chair, respected Executive Board, and my fellow delegates. Hungary stands firmly beside Israel, not just as an ally, but as a nation that believes in justice, truth, and the right of every sovereign state to defend itself. On October 7th, the world witnessed one of the darkest days in recent history. Innocent Israeli civilians were slaughtered in cold blood, children were kidnapped, women were abused, and families were torn apart by the terrorist group Hamas. Let us be very clear, this was not resistance. This was terrorism, plain and simple. Hungary believes that no nation should be expected to stay silent while its people are butchered. Israel is not fighting Palestine. Israel is fighting Hamas, a terrorist organization that uses civilians as shield and schools as conflict spaces. While we deeply mourn every innocent life lost, Israeli or Palestinian, we must ask who started this war, who hides behind the civilians, who glorifies material more than they value peace. Hungary stands with Israel not out of politics, but out of principle. In the word of Elie Wiesel, we must always take side. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Hungary believes that no nation should be expected to stay silent. Hungary has taken its side and we stand with Israel. Thank you.
Delegate of Hungary, you have 5 seconds remaining. How will that be yielded?
The delegate of Hungary would like to yield the remaining time to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate. We will proceed to the next delegate.
United Arab Emirates, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing Delegate of UAE. Honorable Chair and fellow delegates, the United Arab Emirates stands before you today with a profound concern over the tragic and escalating violence in Israel-Palestine conflict. We grieve for loss of innocent lives and condemn the sufferings endured by civilians who continue to bear the brunt of this long-standing conflict. The UAE has always upheld the principles of peace, coexistence, and diplomacy. We believe that only a just and lasting two-state solution, in accordance with international law and United Nations resolution, can bring an end to the cycle of violence. While the UAE normalized relations with Israel under Abraham Accords, this is no way diminishes our unwavering support for the rights and dignity of Palestinian people. Our commitment to Palestinian cause remains steadfast, and we urge the international community to prioritize dialogue, not division. We call for immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the protection of all civilians and unimpeded delivery of aid. Extremism and violence from any side cannot and must not dictate the future of this region. The UAE is prepared to work with regional and international partners to facilitate dialogue and promote peace. We stand ready to provide humanitarian support and to support the brings us closer to peaceful resolutions. Thank you.
Delegate of United Arab Emirates, you have 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
Delegate of UAE would like to yield to points of information.
The delegate of United Arab Emirates is now open to points of information. Countries would like to raise it. Delegate of Switzerland, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. How does the delegation of United Arab Emirates justify hosting Israeli cultural events, defense exports, and organization of summits for Israel's deadly attack on Palestinians, innocent civilians. How does the delegate of United Arab Emirates justify hosting Israeli cultural events, defense exports, and normalization summits for Israel's deadly attack on Palestinian civilians?
Delegate of UAE would like to ask this question, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate of Switzerland. Delegate of Israel, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. The UAE has demonstrated a commitment to regional stability through the Abraham Accords. How do you see the Abraham Accords as a pathway to broadening regional peace and economic cooperation, even as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unresolved?
May I reply? Yes, Sumit.
The UAE normalized relations with Israel, planned annexation of 30% of West Bank in 2020, a move that would have catastrophic for any future Palestinian state. We choose de-escalation over isolation. UAE continues to provide humanitarian aid and development aids to Palestine.
Not granted due to time constraints. Questions of other delegates will be entertained by Archer. We'll proceed to the next delegate. Thank you, Delegate of United Arab Emirates.
Delegate of United Kingdom, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of United Kingdom. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Good morning, honorable judges, esteemed chair, and fellow delegates. The UK has remained deeply concerned and active about the Israel-Palestine conflict since the very beginning, marking the 2 major instances of the Balfour Declaration 1917 and the British Mandate 1948 by the British government. We firmly believe in Israel's right to exist in security, just as we hold acceptable aspirations of the Palestinian people for a sovereign state of their own. The United Kingdom supports Israel's right to defend itself, especially in response to terrorist activity from groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. We also oppose Palestine's unjust act of forced recruitment and use of minors in militant groups as a violation of humanitarian law, along with inhuman practices such as hijacking of Israeli planes, including E-1-253 and E-1-422 attacks. Throughout the conflict, UK has aligned itself with the US, which has also given significant support to Israel and has abstained from 3 resolutions put forth by the United Nations Security Council calling for a ceasefire in Gaza Strip. At last, I would like to conclude by saying that this war will only be ended through international cooperation, commitment to diplomacy, and respect for international law. Thank you.
Delegate of United Kingdom, you have 3 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
Delegate of UK would like to yield its remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of United Kingdom is now open to points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Palestine, you have been recognized.
To the distinct delegation of the United Kingdom. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration pledged a support for national homes and Jewish people in Palestine, without consultation and consent of the native Arab population. Today, over a century later, this has translated into occupation of half-right walls and humanitarian crisis so deep that even UN officials called it unlivable. Does the United Kingdom believe it has any responsibility, moral, legal, or historic, for the consequences of colonial era promises, or will it continue to speak of neutrality while the fire burns in Gaza in front of generations?
Delegate would like to answer this question. May I check?
Thank you, Delegate of Palestine. Delegate of Singapore, you have been recognized.
Thank you for organizing Singapore. I would like to ask you the question that two-state solution has been the root cause of all problems in the Israel and Palestine conflict. It was your divide and rule that has caused all the bloodshed here. How would you like to take it?
Balfour Declaration was during the time of global conflict and imperial interests, not as a direct plan to displace Palestinians. The roots of the conflict involve complex religious, ethnic, colonial, and regional dynamics, including the Ottoman Empire, Arab nations, Zionist groups, and international powers all played the major roles. In fact, the League of Nations and later United Nations had authority to manage the Palestinian mandate. Responsibility of the conflict does not lie only upon UK. During the mandate period, the UK faced armed opposition from both sides, hardly the role of a biased or dominant supporter. So, the UK at that time did what was right to control the situation, and it does not take upon the responsibility alone of this conflict.
Follow. Sorry, will not be entertained due to time constraints. Delegate of New Zealand, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing delegate of New Zealand. Why has UK not taken stronger actions in UNSC regarding ceasefire resolution?
May I reply?
Yes, Simi.
We firmly believe in promoting resolutions that take into account the legitimate security concerns of both Israelis and Palestinians rather than supporting measures that could be perceived as biased or incomplete. We pass resolutions which have genuine potential to lead to lasting peace, not just symbolic gestures. UK constantly advocated for ceasefires that condemn attacks on civilians, whether from Hamas or Israeli forces. Thank you.
Need to follow?
Not granted. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained by Richard. Thank you, Delegate of United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair.
Delegate of Germany, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Germany. Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the Federal Republic of Germany stands before this Council deeply committed to addressing the ongoing and escalating conflict between Israel and Palestine, a crisis that has not only affected millions of lives but has also shaken the conscience of the global community. Germany strongly condemns the violence on all sides. We mourn the tragic loss of innocent lives on both sides and firmly advocate for the immediate cessation of hostilities, the protection of civilians, and the unimpeded delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. As a proud member of the European Union and a supporter of a two-state solution, Germany calls for a renewed diplomatic agreement through the UN and regional partners to ensure long-term stability and coexistence. Germany does not stand merely as an observer, but as a committed advocate of a peaceful and just resolution. We believe that words must translate into action and resolutions must pave the path for reconciliation. Germany stands ready to facilitate peace efforts, support reconstruction, and promote mutual recognition and respect between both the sides. Thank you.
Delegate of Germany, you have 22 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
The delegate of Germany would like to read 2 points of information.
Delegate of Germany is now read points of information. Countries who would like to raise it. Delegate of Ukraine, you have been recognized.
While Germany aims to support human rights and a two-state solution, how does it justify continue military and financial support to Israel despite ongoing violence of international law and documented humanitarian crisis in Gaza?
Could you please repeat?
While Germany aims to support human rights and a two-state solution, how does it justify continued military and financial support to Israel despite ongoing violence of international law and documented humanitarian crisis in Gaza?
May I reply?
Yes, sir.
We supply exports to our armed exports to Israel because we consider it as a historical responsibility for us as self-defense and also measures Israel's right to exist and defense. Germany's military support to Israel is based on a legal, transparent and defensive framework, not on unconditional alignment. And at the same time, we are also one of the largest humanitarian aid providers to Palestinians in Gaza, which shows the balanced responsibility.
Thank you, Delegate Ukraine. Due to time constraints, questions from other delegates will be entertained via chat. We'll proceed to the next delegate. Thank you, Delegate of Germany. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Delegate of Oman, you are recognized for the next 90 seconds. Thanking the chair for recognizing the delegate of Oman. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. Today we meet not just as representatives of sovereign states, but as guardians of humanity. The crisis in Gaza is not a distant conflict, it is a global moral reckoning, and it is one we must not fail. The Sultanate of Oman expresses grave concern over the scale of civilian suffering. Lives are being ruined, aid is being blocked, and children sleep hungry, if they sleep at all. Hospitals lie in ruins, infrastructure is shattered. Oman calls for immediate, unrestricted humanitarian access. Medical teams must not be targeted. Aid convoys must reach those in need. Simultaneously, Oman supports a credible international investigation into possible war crimes. Peace cannot exist without justice. Undermining institutions like UNRWA only deepens suffering and erodes faith in multilateral cooperation. Oman has responded with increased humanitarian aid through trusted international channels. This is not charity, this is our responsibility. Economically, Oman's Vision 2040 faces setbacks to becoming a regional hub for logistics, trade and innovation, as maritime disputes threaten port revenue, investor trust and regional stability. Thank you. Oman yields the floor.
Delegate of Oman, you have 5 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
The delegate of Oman would like to yield the remaining time to points of interest.
Delegate of Australia, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Oman has historically advocated for Palestinian rights, yet it normalized diplomatic channels with Israel as early as 2018. If Oman condemns Israel's actions in Gaza today, how does it justify initiating diplomatic ties with the state it now accuses of violating international law? Oman fully supports Palestine and it does not recognize Israel as a state. Oman's approach is rooted in neutrality, quiet diplomacy and humanitarian action. While others may take strong political stances, Oman focuses on facilitating dialogue and ensuring that civilians receive aid without politicization. We believe that this enables us to act as a trusted intermediary. Need to follow up?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Spain, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegation of Spain. Does Oman support a multilateral Arab-led reconstruction plan that includes Syria and other frontline states?
Oman not only supports an Arab-led but a world-led reconstruction of Gaza, not with only Syria and the frontline states, but all the major countries contributing to make the place a home again. Thank you.
Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat. Delegate of Lithuania, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Lithuania. Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, Lithuania speaks with the clarity of a nation that survived Soviet occupation. We know terrorists, and Hamas is one of them. October 7th wasn't resistance, it was pure submission. And Israel response, not aggression, survival. To those condemning Israel retaliation, when terrorists brigade your civilian, burn your children alive, you don't send peace agreement, you destroy them. Lithuania didn't break free from USSR by negotiating with terrorists before. So does Israel. Failing sowing the same, delegate of Iran, you fund this plus. Delegate of Turkey, stop providing arms to Hamas. Delegate of Palestine, why don't you drive out the terrorists from Israel? At last, I will take the lead, but remember, history judges not only absent, but the purest remain evil. Thank you.
Delegate of Lithuania, you have 30 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
I would like to yield the remaining time to points of information.
The delegate of Lithuania is now open to points of information. Countries would like to raise it. Delegate of Russian Federation, you have been recognized.
Lithuanian champions rules-based orders, yet cheers on a state-defying UN resolutions and bombing civilians. Is your diplomacy grounded in principles or to your values vanished the moment Washington looked the other way?
I would like to reply in Russian.
Thank you, Delegate of Russian Federation. Delegate of Romania, you have been recognized.
Lithuania has insisted on a two-state solution. How does Lithuania reconcile this active alignment with Israel's military posture, especially while recognizing Palestine only at the right time, without leveraging its bilateral and EU leverage to press for binding accountability, humanitarian access, and immediate movement towards Palestinian statehood?
Could you please repeat this?
Lithuania has expanded its defense cooperation with Israel and endorsed EU dialogues while insisting on a two-state solution. How does Lithuania reconcile this active alignment with Israel's military posture, especially while recognizing Palestine only at the right time? Why is it so contradicting and ironic?
Can I reply?
Yes, Simi.
I don't recognize Lithuania as a state. It is just isn't a state. It's a state ruled by terrorist organization to give no Hamas.
Do I need to respond to that?
Not relevant to time constraints. Delegate of Turkey, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegates of Turkey. May I say it to the delegates of Lithuania that there is no clear evidences that we, Turkey, openly supports or give weapons of mass destruction to Hamas. Rather, we say that we don't support terrorism. Rather, will you accept an act done by killing over 60,000 people, including many innocent civilians and children, infant babies, 3-year, 2-year, 1 month, 2 month, all-year child. Will you accept that yes, Israel has done a genocide, Israel is right now doing the terrorism in Gaza? Will you accept that?
May I reply?
Yes, Simi.
Delegate of Turkey, you cry genocide while bombing Kunduz village where you tear a 4-year-old resin blown apart by your M16. Do you remember it? When you jailed 16,000 children as terrorists last year, where was your innocence? When you jailed 16,000 where was your innocence?
Can you please rephrase it?
I'm saying when you jailed 16,000 children last year, by terming them as a terrorist, where was your innocence?
Please tell me a source of information.
UN.
Pardon?
Yes.
Pardon? You will say
UN.
There is no clear evidence which supports this, that we have jailed over 60,000 people as terrorists. Rather, I was asking a question. You said that we, Turkey, supply weapons of mass destruction. Right now you said it, that to Hamas. Let me clarify this to each one of you, and especially to the delegates of Lithuania.
No, I have proof of it. I have proof of it. You supply weapons to Hamas. Thank you.
Yes.
me clarify the delegate of Turkey that Israel is not killing civilians just for fun. We are defending our nation, and if you are so much concerned about it, you must stop Hamas from making weapons and civilians, and you must stop Hamas from invading Hamas terrorists into our country. You should stop Hamas from attacking first to our nation. So it's just self-defense that we are trying to do, and we are not killing anyone with intention. Thank you.
Due to time constraints, further replies, follow-ups and questions of other delegates will be entertained gradually.
Delegate of Bangladesh. Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the delegation of Bangladesh stands today not with silence, but with a voice echoing the cries of oppressed, the displaced and the forgotten people of Palestine. We do not come here to take sides in war. We come to take a stand for humanity. As a nation that endured the horrors of genocide in 1971, Bangladesh knows the pain of losing loved ones, of mothers searching double for their children, and of prayers drowned out by bombs. What is unfolding in Gaza is not a conflict. It is a humanitarian collapse. Over 30,000 lives lost, most of them women and children. Highlighting their suffering is not a political manipulation. It is a humanitarian obligation. Bangladesh calls on all the parties to respect the Geneva Convention and ensure the protection of civilians. Over 30,000 lives lost, most of them are women and children. How many more must die before the world acts? Bangladesh demands an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, full humanitarian access, the protection of hospitals, schools and refugee camps under the international law, and above all, a lasting solution of sovereign Palestine living side by side with Israel in peace and dignity, based on pre-1967 borders. This is not just about Palestine, this is about the credibility of international law, the strength of United Nations, and the soul of humanity. Let us not be remembered as a generation that watched a nation bleed and chose silence. Let us be remembered as the diplomats who chose peace over politics and justice over power. Thank you.
Delegate of Bangladesh, you have 5 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
I would like to use the remaining time to Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. We'll proceed to the next delegate.
Delegate of Algeria, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Algeria. Greetings, the Honorable Chair, Co-Chair, and my fellow delegates. The delegation of Algeria stands with a statement for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. It's essential to end the violence, and long-lasting peace requires the Palestinians to enjoy their legitimate right. The Israeli occupation on all territories should be put to an end. Algeria demands the Security Council to work towards establishing an independent Palestinian state. With Al-Quds Sharif as its capital, Algeria had already warned the Security Council about the risks of Israeli aggression against Gaza spreading across the Middle East. But unfortunately, the risk has become the reality. Today, we face regional conflict with serious and unpredictable global consequences. Algeria condemns in the strongest terms the military attacks by the Israeli occupation forces. In these past 657 days, people have not only died from wounds, but from the silence of empty plates. The solution is well known. The war needs to end. The Israeli occupation needs to stop. The citizens of Palestine are a double victim, not only from the Israeli attacks, but also from the Hamas terrorists using them as shields. Algeria calls upon all member states to focus on constructive dialogue, evidence-based diplomacy, and humanitarian efforts that are threatening the cooperation in resolving the Middle East conflict. Thank you.
Delegate of Algeria, you have exhausted the allotted time limit, so we'll proceed to the next delegate. Thank you, Delegate of Algeria.
Thank you, Chair.
Delegate of Poland, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing Poland. The Republic of Poland is deeply concerned by the ongoing violence and humanitarian crisis unfolding in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Poland calls for an immediate and mutual ceasefire, the opening of secure humanitarian corridors, and the protection of civilians. regardless of nationality, religion, or political affiliation. The condemned of attacks on civilians, including rocket fire from Gaza and military actions in densely populated areas. Poland also reaffirms that international humanitarian law must be upheld by all parties, and we should impartial investigations into alleged war crimes by both state and non-state actors. Poland continues to support a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders. We pleased Jerusalem as the capital of future Palestinian state and West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. We believe that long-term peace is only possible through diplomatic engagement, mutual recognition, and respect for the dignity of both people. Poland stands ready to work with all the nations committed to peace, justice, and meaningful dialogue. Thank you.
Delegate of Poland, we have 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegate of Poland would like to chair for the remaining 15 seconds.
Thank you, Delegate of Poland. We'll proceed to the next delegate.
Delegate of Netherlands, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Netherlands. May I speak?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates. The Netherlands stands firmly in support of a two-state solution. We believe that a lasting peace can only be achieved through mutual recognition, security guarantees, and clear agreements between Israel and Palestine. Netherlands condemns all violation of international humanitarian law, regardless of who commits them. We support independent investigation by International Criminal Court and call on all parties to protect civilians and allow humanitarian. It calls for immediate, safe, and unhindered humanitarian access to all affected population. We urge all parties to uphold the principles of proportionality and distinction under international law, and we support independent investigations into all violence. We are committed to promoting the development of international legal order and upholding human rights for all. We believe that peace can only be achieved through negotiations. The Netherlands stands not with one side or the other, but with humanity, justice, and international law. We strongly believe that there is no military solution to this conflict, only a negotiated two-state solution. Let us work not to pick sides, but to end suffering, not to assign blame, but to build peace.
Thank you, Delegate of Netherlands. You have 16 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
Delegate of Netherlands would like to use the remaining time to points of information.
Delegate of Netherlands is now open to points of information. Countries would like to raise it.
Delegate of Kuwait, you have been recognized.
Thank you for recognizing the delegate of Kuwait. Netherlands claims to uphold international humanitarian law. How does your delegation view Israel's actions in Gaza in light of the ICJ's provisional measures?
Can you repeat?
The Netherlands claims to uphold international humanitarian law. How does your delegation view Israel's actions in Gaza in light of the ICJ's provisional measures?
I would like to answer.
Thank you, Delegate of Kuwait. Delegate of United Kingdom, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. As the Netherlands supported International Criminal Court (ICC) investigations into possible war crimes in Israel or Palestine,
Delegate, please do not take much time for replying.
Unwavering commitment to global justice. We support impartial investigation into all alleged war crimes and call on all states to respect the authority of these states. Peace without justice is fragile, but justice without fairness is dangerous.
Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained by the chair.
And Delegate of Lebanon, you have been recognized for the next 9 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. Can I speak?
Yes, you may.
Honorable Chair, respected delegates, the dedication of Lebanon stands today not just as a nation but as a neighbor who has seen the pain and the destruction caused by decades of conflict. We speak not with politics but with humanity. Lebanon strongly supports the rights of the Palestinian people. For years, we have opened our borders to refugees of the world little good and spoken out in the UN against injustice. What is happening today is not just a war, it is a crisis of human rights. Thousands of innocent lives have been lost. Homes, schools and hospitals have been turned into relief. Lebanon believes it is time we stop the silence and start acting. We urgently call for an immediate ceasefire. We demand that humanitarian aid be allowed to reach those in need without delay or condition. Children are dying. This could never be known. Lebanon also believes that peace will never be possible without justice. The illegal occupation must end. International law must be followed and the voices of the oppressed must be heard. We are ready to work with all nations who believe in dignity, equality and peace. Lebanon may be small, but our voice is strong, and today we use it to stand with Palestine and to call for a better, more just future. Thank you.
Delegate of Lebanon, you have 15 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
I would like to yield it to the chair.
Thank you, Delegate of Lebanon. We will proceed to the next delegate. Yes, sir.
Delegate of Thailand, you are recognized for the next 90 seconds. Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the Delegate of Thailand. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, the Kingdom of Thailand stands in deep concern escalating violence and suffering caused by the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine. For far too long, civilians have borne the brunt of political failure, families displaced, children orphaned, and communities devastated. Thailand firmly supports a two-state solution in which both Israel and Palestine can coexist in peace, security, and mutual respect. This position aligns with the international law and the United Nations resolution as a country with diplomatic relation with both Israel and the state of Palestine. Thailand remains committed to the neutrality dialogue and humanitarian action. The current situation in Gaza demands our urgent attention. The humanitarian crisis, with shortages of food, water, electricity, and medical care, is worsening every day. Thailand calls for immediate ceasefire, safe humanitarian corridors, and protection for aid workers. We strongly support the efforts of UN agencies such as UNRWA and ICRC in providing critical aid. Moreover, Thailand encourages the international community to focus not only on the short-term need, but also on long-term peace. Thank you.
Delegate of Thailand, we have 10 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield it?
The Delegate of Thailand would like to yield its time to the point of information.
Delegate of Thailand is now open to points of information. Countries would like to
when your own streets once cried for democracy, the world listened. So why do you now sit mute as bombs silence Palestinian children? Or is your neutrality just silence threats and
and advocate for full respect of international humanitarian law by all parties and for the Palestinian and for the kids of the Palestinian.
Thank you, Delegate of Russian Federation. Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will be entertained via chat.
Distinguished delegates, the Kingdom of Belgium believes that the Israel-Palestine conflict is one of the most painful and complex issues our world faces today. Too many Israeli and Palestinians' lives have been lost, and the cycle of violence continues without real progress towards peace. Belgium strongly supports a two-state solution where both the countries can live side by side in peace, with dignity, and within secure and internationally recognized borders. We believe this is the only realistic path forward. That being said, we are deeply concerned by the ongoing violence, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and the expansion of settlements in the West Bank, which continues to threaten the possibility of a peaceful solution. Violence against civilians, no matter where they are or where they live, is never acceptable. As a European nation that values diplomacy and human rights and the rule of law
Belgium urges all parties to return to a meaningful dialogue. We call for international community, including everyone in this room, to play a more active role in supporting negotiations, humanitarian aid, and long-term stability. Thank you.
Delegate of Belgium, you have 12 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegate of Belgium would like to use its remaining time for points of information.
Delegate of Belgium has now put points of information. Countries would like to raise it.
Like suspending military equipment license to Israel in early 2024. However, it continues significant trade with Israeli firms that operate in or support settlements. How does Belgium reconcile this selective restriction with its strong public stance on international law?
May I reply?
Yes, you may.
Belgium suspended arms export to Israel in 2024, taking real steps aligned with international law. We are also pushing for a stronger EU accountability, European nation-wide accountability on settlements-linked trade. While some countries continue expanding military ties during the conflict, Belgium believes that real commitment to peace means matching words with actions. Need to follow up?
Not granted due to time constraints.
Thank you, Chair.
Delegate of Zimbabwe, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Zimbabwe. Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the Republic of Zimbabwe stands in unwavering solidarity with the people of Palestine in their struggle for justice, dignity, and freedom. As a nation that once fought against colonialism and racial oppression, we deeply understand the pain of deportation. For over 75 years, the pain of deportation, Palestinians have lived under illegal occupation, facing military aggression, forced displacement, and daily violations of the basic human rights. We support the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, coexisting peacefully with Israel, as per the two-state solution agreed in numerous international records. Zimbabwe calls for an immediate ceasefire and end to all violence, unhindered humanitarian aid to Gaza, and respect for a new resolution including 242 and 338. Let us not allow history to remember our silent witnesses to injustice. Let us stand for peace, unity, and rights for the oppressed. Zimbabwe chooses justice. Zimbabwe chooses Palestine. Thank you.
Delegate of Zimbabwe, you have 25 seconds remaining. How would you like to use it?
The delegate of Zimbabwe would like to yield the remaining time to points of information.
The delegate of Zimbabwe is now open to points of information. Countries would like to raise it.
Thank you for recognizing. Why does Zimbabwe's loud Palestinian support amount to nothing but words, failing to lead an African peace effort while Israel's occupation thrives?
We are not supporting the side, we are supporting human rights. Zimbabwe cannot take stance. Zimbabwe's stance is based on international law and moral responsibilities. Peace requires acknowledging injustice and holding all who are able accountable. Thank you.
Need to follow?
Not granted due to time constraints. Delegate of Belgium, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe demands war crime investigations against Israel, which is fair. But where is your condemnation of Hamas firing rockets into civilian homes or using children as shields? Do human rights law apply when it's politically inconvenient?
Zimbabwe condemns all attacks on civilians, whether it's rocket fire or the use of human shields. Our demand for a war crimes investigation is not one-sided. Accountability must apply to both state and non-state actors. But let's be clear, Israel as a powerful state has a greater responsibility under international law. Calling for justice is not bias, it's a demand for equal human rights even when it's politically inconvenient. Thank you.
Due to time constraints, questions of other delegates will going to be invited. Thank you, Delegate of Zimbabwe.
Delegate of Australia, you have been recognized for the next 90 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing the delegate of Australia. Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, Australia stands today not to take sides but to speak for what must be universal,
the value of every civilian life, the urgency of peace, and the authority of international law. We recognize Israel's right to defend itself, but defense can never justify the destruction of entire neighborhoods, cannot justify the killing of children, journalists, and women. Just as terrorism must be condemned, so must collective punishment. Equally, we stand for the rights of Palestinian people, rights